expand our imagination.
Justification for being what it was.
Welcome to Washington Unplugged. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. The midterm elections marked historic losses for the president's party, giving control of the House back to Republicans. According to a CBS News poll out this morning, President Obama's approval rating is stagnant at about 45%, what it was before Election Day. But the majority of people we polled say they want the president to compromise with Republicans and vice versa. Joining me today to discuss these numbers and more, Washington Post's Perry Bacon. Then we'll hear from Academy Award-winning actor Jeff Bridges on an issue close to his heart, ending childhood hunger. And we'll commemorate Veterans Day today with a piece from CBS News' Fernando Suarez. But first, Perry Bacon, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
First, your reflections on our new poll and all of this talk of compromise. Is it easier said than done?
For Obama on the poll, first of all, it's good news for him that his numbers have not dropped, considering we've been covering him and suggesting this is such a huge defeat. And the fact his numbers are still the same is actually a great thing. I feel like on compromise, it's like asking people if they want ice cream or not. You know, they really like ice cream until they thought about the calories and why they don't, why it's actually bad to eat ice cream every day. Similarly, I think Republicans and Democrats both want compromise in theory, but Democrats don't want more tax cuts passed for the rich, and Republicans don't. And Republicans don't want a lot of Obama policies to continue. They want to repeal health care, which is certainly not a compromising view. So I think when you get to the details of the issues, we've already seen Pelosi and Boehner giving absolutist statements on various issues. I think the compromise room will be smaller than we expect, despite what the public might want.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the debt commission, the so-called bipartisan commission that was set up by President Obama to think of ways to get us out of this massive debt that we're in. And a report they leaked out themselves yesterday that will probably, from what I understand, never really go anywhere, has all kinds of controversial recommendations in it. Can you kind of put that into context for us, what they said and why you think they released this yesterday?
What they said was kind of, we've had a lot of commissions to talk about reducing the deficit before, and what they said is kind of things we already knew. You have to raise the retirement age, you have to reduce Social Security benefits for people, you have to cut out a lot of the tax breaks people get now. These are things that Congress pretty much already knew they had to do before the commission reported it. And the commission's having trouble even among its own members getting support for these ideas. And they put it out early in part to try to build some support among the public and among stakeholders before their other commissioners start opposing it. So they have very little. If you saw yesterday, the president said today while he's abroad, it actually said, I want to consider this, I want to keep this open, keep an open mind. Speaker Pelosi said adamantly she opposes the Social Security proposal already, which I think is where things are headed.
Aren't there different proposals within this report that each side would support and each side would be against? Does that make it just a non-starter?
I think it does for now. I mean, depending on the one thing we don't know is that the president actually says, look, you know, gets both sides of the table and says, look, everyone has to take some cuts and things they don't like, and is really able to drive this discussion and push the American people to feel differently about it. That could change, but he is not at his strongest moment right now in terms of public approval and in terms of his influence. So I think that'll be very difficult for him to do.
You watch political opinion a lot, but what about public opinion when it comes to making the tough choices? It's hard enough for politicians to want to do something they know the voters might not like. Can voters themselves get behind something that may be necessary but will be hard either on them or people they know?
I think right now the answer to that looks to be no. I mean, in talking about this commission, one of their ideas is, for instance, to raise the retirement age and reduce Social Security benefits. The commission would argue Social Security was created when people died, you know, at a much younger age, and if people are living to be 90, they shouldn't get government benefits for 25, 30 years. Republicans and Democrats oppose this by 2/3. You know, like more than half of both parties oppose this idea. So it's really hard if you're a congressman to vote for an idea that you not only your other party not support, but that your own party will oppose you too. It's going to be very hard to make those. The public does not seem to really be ready for those tough choices just yet.
Now, there's been a lot of mixed reporting on the White House's position on what some call the Bush tax cuts, and should that come to an end. Can you clarify what's going on and what people can expect in that avenue?
What the president wants to do is permanently extend the tax cuts for people for income that's below $250,000 a year. So he wants to protect those tax cuts, but only temporarily extend them for people over that. He doesn't want to extend them at all for people over that income, but the Republicans, so his compromises will extend them all, but all for some period of time. The Republicans don't want to have a vote about middle class tax cuts now and then upper income tax cuts later. That's not in their interest, because you'd actually have to have a vote where you voted to cut taxes for millionaires directly. So they would like to avoid that. and hence I think this is going to be hard to compromise on. The Republicans have taken Obama's olive branch and pretty much rejected it so far.
So where does it end up? Who has the real power on this issue, the way things are divided up now?
I would say the Republicans have a lot of power because ultimately, you know, the president wants to be for tax cuts too. If the Republicans say tax cuts for everyone or tax cuts for no one, the president's going to be in a hard place because most Americans would not like their taxes raised.
Perry Bacon, thank you so much. Cleared a lot of that up for us, and we appreciate you being here. All right, moving on, actor Jeff Bridges is best known perhaps for his Academy Award-winning role in the movie Crazy Heart, but it's actually ending childhood hunger that pulls at his own heartstrings. CBS News' Jan Crawford spoke with Bridges when he was in Washington, D.C. yesterday. Let's take a look.
This has been an issue of yours for a very long time. You became interested in childhood hunger, I saw it back in, what, 1983?
Yes.
What prompted your interest in this topic?
Well, I was made aware of the enormity of the problem, first of all, and then that it wasn't a matter of not having enough food or enough money or know-how. We knew ways of ending hunger. What was missing was creating the political will. And so I thought, you know, well, what can I do to help create that will? What am I willing to do? And I thought, well, I'm in the entertainment business. An entertainer, what role does an entertainer have in ending hunger? And I thought, well, I'm involved with the media all the time. It's like what we're doing right here, right now. There's I can spread the message. I can, get the word out. That's part of the problem with childhood hunger here in our country, is that people don't know how serious a problem it is.
And how serious a problem is it?
Well, according to the United States Department of Agriculture, we currently have 17 million of our children, that's 1 in 4 of our kids, living in households where there is food insecurity, meaning they don't have nutrition.
Wait a minute, 1 in 4 children in the United States?
Yeah.
Now tell me about your new campaign.
Well, the new campaign, the No Kid Hungry campaign, is dealing with this problem that we're talking about right now, letting people know the problem, what the situation is. For instance, there are 19 million kids that are eligible for free meals or reduced price meals at school. Only half of those kids are getting those meals. Or in summertime, for instance, which is really a tough time for kids who are struggling with hunger because they look towards school as their main source of nutrition. Only 15% of those kids getting those meals.
The First Lady has unveiled, obviously, kind of her initiative, which is fighting childhood obesity.
Yeah.
I mean, do you see some irony in that? Here we are talking about children who don't have enough food, and now there's also a compelling competing problem about children who are obese.
Well, they're really two sides of the same coin, A lot of it is what you eat.
So you see your campaign and your efforts as being really complementary to what the First Lady's doing.
Oh, very much so. Oh, they go hand in hand. Oh, absolutely.
And then finally, I guess we think of the United States of America as this land of plenty, this richest nation. I mean, what word would you use to characterize the fact that 1 in 4 kids in this country are hungry?
Shamed. Yeah.
Last year, CBS News got a rare and exclusive behind-the-scenes look into the daily lives of the guys who are tomb sentinels, the men and women who help guard the tomb of the unknown soldiers at Arlington National Cemetery. In honor of their dedication and the service of all veterans, we leave you with this report again by CBS News' Fernando Suarez.
This underground facility is located just feet away from the very tombs they help protect, an area that is not open to the public and seldom allows media access.
This is where the guards are at when they're not outside. Exactly.
Sergeant Benton Timms is one of 9 ranking officers in charge of changing out the guards. He has agreed to show us around on his day off, but we quickly realize that his schedule is not like most people's.
Usually for that 24-hour shift, we're going to be up for that entire 24-hour shift.
They work around the clock, starting their day at 5 a.m. and ending their shift at 6 or 7 the next morning. They get one day off in between shift, which sounds manageable, but it's the prep work before the next shift that consumes most of their free time.
This is my changing blouse.
Each guard tediously cares for his own uniform, everything from pressing the pleats on their jackets to measuring their medal placements to 1/64th of an inch.
When I come into work that next work day, I come in here and the first thing I do is I take this blouse out, I hang it up on my locker, and I check everything again. Because maybe overnight, the material might have sagged a little bit and something might be off just slightly. And so we'll go back and we'll recheck again and again.
Tim says the entire process to prepare their uniform, from pressing and steaming to measuring the medals, can take as long as 12 hours for a rookie and about 4 to 8 hours for more experienced soldiers. The bulk of that time, however, is taken up by shining their shoes.
So every day we go back with a boot brush them off, and sand them down with 2,000 grit sandpaper and make sure all the texture's out, and then we'll re-shine them up, and it takes several hours.
They use a similar procedure for their gun holsters and bayonet scabbards, taking this crude green-issued case and turning it into a polished piece that hangs at their side. All of the medal and badges are polished by hand.
You can sit in here for hours and hours and hours on end and still not be to where it needs to be.
Only about 1 in 10 trainees completes the program, making earning the Tomb Guard badge the most difficult badge to obtain in the military. Once enrolled, most serve an average of 1.5 years before the demanding post and the grueling schedule become too much.
Working 24-hour shifts is not for everybody. Measuring everything on your uniform to 1/64th of an inch is not for everybody. Shining shoes with shoe polish, again, that's not for everybody.
It's all done to meet what Tim's calls a standard of perfection.
To honor them, we give them our absolute best, and the best thing we can give them is perfection.
Perfection, which means no guard leaves this room without being fully inspected by another soldier. An extreme regimen that on some days can mean changing in and out of their ceremonial blue uniforms up to 23 times in one shift.
When you're spending 6, 7, 8 hours shining those shoes or pressing your blouse back there at 2 o'clock in the morning, you just have to stop, assess why you're doing it, what they gave up. And well, hey, spending 6 hours on my shoes is the least I can do for these guys who gave up their identities.
When night falls, the vigil continues, but the ceremonial blue uniforms are hung up. Instead, guards don standard Army combat uniforms to protect the tomb when the cemetery closes. In the morning, they will reset the clock and do it all over again. Fernando Suarez, CBS News, Arlington National Cemetery.
Hard to imagine a job with more attention to detail. Wow. That's it for Washington Unplugged. Join us here every day at 12:30 p.m. on CBSNews.com. And you can catch my Follow the Money reports on the CBS Evening News with Katie Couric. I'm Sharyl Attkisson. Have a great day.